Welcome to the Clear to Send podcast, a podcast about wireless engineering, where we educate you on Wi-Fi technology, talk about design tips, troubleshooting, interviews, and the tools. Here are your hosts, Roel and Francois.
This episode is proudly sponsored by MetaGeek. For more than a decade, network professionals have used MetaGeek Wi-Fi tools to deploy, maintain, and troubleshoot wireless networks. Visit metageek.com/CTS and use the code CTS10 at checkout for 10% off your purchase of MetaGeek brand hardware and software.
This week in wireless. So we're starting the news this week with Hive. They have announced the release of the first enterprise 802.11ax access points. So they'll be shipping mid-2018, and they have announced 3 different models. The AP630 offered at $1199, the AP650 and 650X offered at $1,399. And so they have all the details on their website. We have included the link into the show notes of this week episode. They also came out with a nice poster on 802.11ax, summarizing the new technology advancement of the amendment. So you guys can go ahead and check the show notes to download a version of the poster. You can actually go on their website and get the poster for free. So that's the first news for the week. Second news is also related to 802.11ax. I feel like 2018 is going to be around 802.11ax. So the second piece of news is related to Extreme Networks. They will be hosting an 802.11ax webinar with Devin Ekin. So we already know it's going to be very interesting and very technical. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be on February 7th at 11 a.m. EST, and it's going to be 1 hour long. So you can go ahead and register for the webinar. I'm sure it's going to be available afterwards if you're not available on the 7th. You can also, so it's going to be a deep dive into 802.11ax with Devin, and you can also go to Devin Ekin's website on his blog. He released last week an article, and the article is entitled 802.11ax is not, and so he's giving you a list of everything that's AX is not going to be. So it's very interesting. You can go ahead and check out the Devin's article. Third piece of news is a new research says that 6 gig is ready for Wi-Fi. So a research report released last week says that the 6 gig band, today used mostly for satellite uplink and some fixed radio links, is ready for unlicensed Wi-Fi use. So allowing Wi-Fi to operate in the 6 gig band would not cause harmful interference to existing primary services, the report says. So the results were actually presented to the FCC on January 25th. And as a side note, the new Wi-Fi standard, 802.11ax, has already been defined and standardized for use in the 6 gig band. So we never know in the future, we might be able to use Wi-Fi on the 6 gig band. We've added the link to the article from Wi-Fi Now Events.com in the show notes, as well as the link to the full reports. Next, Meraki announced new products and functionality this week. So introduction of Meraki Wireless Health coming soon. So it's going to bring a little more intelligence into the system to help administrators identify issues. And by simplifying root cause analysis for all connected wireless clients in a single dashboard, IT teams can proactively manage and answer complex questions without having to manually dig through the entire network stack. So they're trying to add a little bit more intelligence to their platform. And it's also going to introduce RF profiles into the Meraki configurations, which is very nice. They have also announced new APs, MR20, MR7T, MR53E, and MR42E. If you want all the details, we've included the link in the show notes. And then to finish this week in wireless, we have two pieces of news from Cisco. So this week they've released the new ROS code. So the 8.5 MR2. You can check out the release note. And also they have announced the end of sale and end of life for the 5508 wireless line controller. I'm having my sad voice here. I've deployed a lot of 5508. But I guess we'll work with the new stuff now. So end of sale, end of support for all the dates and the details. Check out the link in the show notes. Thank you for listening to This Week in Wireless. And now we're going to talk about Cisco CleanAir as our main subject for this podcast. Hi, everyone. This is Francois Vergès from Clear to Send. And I'm here today with Roel. Hi, Roel. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
I'm very good. Very good. Thank you. And today we're going to be talking about CleanAir. So CleanAir is a Cisco technology, and it's used to gather information about the spectrum activity and detect potential, non-Wi-Fi interference or Wi-Fi activity. Mm-hmm. During this episode, we're going to try to present a little bit the CleanAir technology, the full package. What benefits could the technology bring to us? And then we're going to try to think about, is it why do we want to use CleanAir? Why do we need it? And we're going to try to talk about the future, and then if we're moving forward, if we're still going to need CleanAir, and how it could be improved.
Yeah.
So to start with, Roel, why don't you talk a little bit about CleanAir, what it is,
sure,
the different pieces.
Yeah, because so in some of the previous episodes, we talked about DCA. We talked about, I don't even recall, but we had two episodes kind of tying into
NDP.
NDP, so DCA and NDP. And so now we're talking about CleanAir because it's kind of an encompassing thing with Cisco and Cisco's RRM with the wireless LAN controllers. They're all very important components. And I think one of the other very important components is CleanAir. And again, this is Cisco proprietary. It's only on this specific thing that we're talking about is just with Cisco wireless LAN controllers. And it is used to get visibility of the shared spectrum and see whether or not you have Wi-Fi or non-Wi-Fi interference. And what can your controller or your APs do about that interference when it is detected? Or maybe it can trigger something to display on your dashboard to say, hey, we have a problem, you should do something about it. And then, you create action from that report that is brought to you, because there are ways to see, what issues are we having with the spectrum through the wireless LAN controller. I mean, there's also some other pieces of software that you could tie into it, and we'll go into that further. But one of the things is CleanAir, its history goes a while back. Doing my research, I came across Spectrum Intelligence, and it sounded like it was a separate piece before CleanAir was developed, because CleanAir is more of a lot of different components within the controller. And it's a chip that's incorporated into the access points, right, Francois?
Yeah, so one of the pieces of CleanAir is a special hardware chip incorporated into the access point. I think they started with the 1600, if I recall properly. And basically the chip will be used to, sense the spectrum, scan the different frequencies used on the used by Wi-Fi, so the 2.4 and the 5 gig radius. And it will sense the spectrum to do like a fast Fourier transform in order to sense any activity on the spectrum and report it back to the controller. So because the advantage of being a separate hardware chip is that it won't affect normal Wi-Fi activity. right? So the access point could, be an access point. I mean, providing Wi-Fi
to the. It could serve clients.
Serve clients.
View the spectrum on its own with this chip. So it's not going to interfere with traffic. It doesn't lower your throughput if it's always scanning the spectrum. But I guess one of the things that you need to know too is when you have these access points in your network, it's going most likely your access point is in local mode. And so one of the things about CleanAir is when that access point is in local mode, it's CleanAir will actually only just scan the spectrum on the channel that it's serving clients on.
Yes. If you have your access point in monitor mode, then it can scan, the full band.
Yep. But then you're not serving any clients at that point.
Yes.
And there is also a third mode, if we want to bring that up.
You're talking about the Spectrum mode?
Yeah, the SE Connect or Spectrum Expert Connect mode. And in that mode, you could actually grab the spectrum, see the spectrum in real time through an application like Cisco Spectrum Expert, I think is what it's called. It's a Windows application. Yeah. And then another application that you could use, this one, Francois, and they're also a sponsor of the show.
Yeah, MetaGeek Channelizer. If you have the special Cisco CleanAir module, you can actually use it to import the spectrum data from a CleanAir AP.
Yeah, and I think one of the best parts, if you have the CleanAir module, is when you're using Spectrum Expert or Spectrum Expert Connect, it'll pick up those signatures as well. So you can actually see what kind of interferers there are in the view of Channelizer. There's a tab for it, and then you select that interferer because it's going to tell you the duty cycle, what channel it's interfering on, and then it'll highlight that in the visual part of the spectrum where the interference is actually detected. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, a lot of people like that.
Cool. So why don't we talk about some of the benefits and some of the things people need to know configuration wise also about CleanAir. Let's dive into that.
I think one of my favorite features is that it's pretty much on 24/7, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's running on the AP, and so it's pretty much on 24/7 as the AP is running, and it can it pretty much instead of being it allows us to be proactive, right? So instead of waiting on a user to complain, going on site, doing a spectrum analysis, and then detecting an interference and trying to fix the issue, we can let the AP pretty much detect the interference for us, mm-hmm. and then we can try to fix the issue before the users complains about poor Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to make sure that you have CleanAir enabled on your controller, which you will find if you log in. It's under the wireless, the wireless heading there. On the left, you'll either turn it on your 5 or 2.4 band. It's under the RRM sub menu, and at the bottom, CleanAir. Just make sure it's enabled. And then there's a whole slew of other settings that you should enable as well. And I guess we could talk about why you should enable those. So we might be jumping around here a bit, right, Francois? Because there's a lot of different settings that you need to know and what exactly it does for you. And so I'll dive in because I'm just jumping straight into this since I mentioned enabling it. One of the things that CleanAir does for you is you could report on the interferers, right? And what reporting interferers really means is that as it's scanning the spectrum, it's going to detect what type of interference is occurring on whatever channel it's serving or whatever channel it's scanning. And then you'll be able to actually see a report in the monitor section, right, Francois?
Yes. So in the monitor section, it will report any activity detected by the access point. So if you have any Bluetooth activity picked up by the access point, it will just show it to you in the monitor tab. On the left, you have a CleanAir section, mm-hmm. where you can visualize all the different detected activity.
Yeah, and it's the interference devices, and that's one of the one of the most important pieces of CleanAir is the IDR, or the interference device report, and it'll tell you what AP saw the interference, what band it was on, affected channel, and more importantly, the severity of that interferer, the duty cycle, and the RSSI. And it'll even give you a signature to what it thinks the interferer is, because it could be something like Bluetooth, right? And sometimes one of the things with CleanAir and just analyzing spectrum and figuring out whether or not you have a problem is it really a problem, right? Even though Cisco is reporting it, is it really a problem on your network? Because you could have Bluetooth as an interference, but maybe it's like 1 or 2 Bluetooth devices. But do your users even see that problem occurring? Because Bluetooth, it does frequency hopping.
Yeah. A couple of Bluetooth devices won't impact your Wi-Fi network.
Yeah, but let's say you have a floor full of salespeople who all have Bluetooth headsets.
Exactly. So you'll be able to see the type of, I would couple that to the channel utilization metrics that the AP will also give us, and then try to correlate the two and see if it's an issue or not.
Cool. Yeah. And you mentioned the channel utilization, and I think that also ties into the air quality index, which is also in that. You'll find that with the interference device report, there is an air quality report, and the air quality index will also give you a severity. And the severity, I think, is between 0 and 100%, and 100% meaning you've got good air quality there. And then going back to the interference device report, the severity is from values 1 through 100. And I always get mixed up with this because I can never remember if 100 is bad or 0 is bad.
Well,
I'll try to figure that out.
If you want to remember, you go on 5 gig and you see what you have. If you have 100% on 5 gig, it's probably good.
But with the air quality index, it will show you the power of the interference. So part of that is the channel utilization and also the duty cycle. And I think duty cycle is important because you could have interference if it's low duty cycle, but the power itself of that interferer could be high.
Yeah. It's going to tell you if it's like a continuous interference or if it's just like one pulse. And the air quality metric is nice. It's pretty much showing you if like the interference is causing problem to or impacting the network.
Yeah, and I think one of the best parts is if you've got neighboring APs, is that with the air quality report, you can see if there's some sort of interference affecting a wide amount of APs, right? If it's widespread or if it's only contained to a single AP, as an example.
Yeah, that's the beauty of CleanAir as well, because it's pretty much the controller will receive information from all of the APs, so the controller will be able to add a little bit of intelligence to it and localize or see if the interference is impacting multiple APs at the same time. You can also send the data to Cisco Prime. And then Cisco Prime, since you can also have import the floor plan of your buildings and then set up the AP locations, Cisco Prime could actually try to localize the interference for you.
Yeah, it'll give you that visualization, right? If you're looking at your floor plan, there is a visualization for the interference, and you could easily see it there and then hover over affected APs to see some of those values that we're talking about, and then be able to make that decision much more quickly in your environment as okay, let me go and see what can I do to mitigate the issue. Maybe it's changing the channel, but that's where RRM is supposed to help, right? Because we talked about enabling the report interferers. Now there's also the interferences that you want it to detect, and you want to move over. There's two fields there. There's interferences to ignore in the controller. You want to move those over to the right side and say, yeah, I want to detect all of these. I want to detect if there's, a 2.4 gigahertz phone or a camera that's affecting the area. It's got a list of different interferences to detect, and you want to move those over so it can detect it.
Yeah, and since everything is part of RM, the RM system or algorithm can leverage the information given by the APs. And then if there's an interference on one given channel that's impacting the network, the RM can take the decision to move this AP to another channel to work around the interference at one given time. Yeah, that's what they call event-driven RM.
Yeah, and there's actually a couple of settings in there for event-driven RM. Maybe you want to talk about what settings we recommend in our environment or what we use in our environment, because I do enable event-driven RM, because if you have a large environment, you don't want to manually try to mitigate those issues, especially if it's going to take you a while to get to that problem, right?
Mm. Yeah, so you want to... And I think enabling can be a good idea, especially in your type of environment where you have hundreds of thousands of APs. But you have to be careful with the sensitivity, because if it's too high and then it changes the AP configuration, the AP channels too often, you can end up having a domino effect of APs changing channels, and it's not really good for
You'll get people dropping off the channel,
of the network,
trying to reconnect, and then that's also going to tie into your DCA algorithm, because now it has to know what channel all the APs are on, and then make any changes based on whatever channel they happen to land on. It all ties together under RM, but again, you still have to enable this, and then enable event-driven RM, and then I set mine to medium. You could start it off at low. That would be my recommendation, and see how your environment reacts to that. And then track those changes, because you can enable trap configurations, which are SNMP traps, and you can detect too how often these APs are changing channels. So that's one thing to keep an eye on, especially if you're using Prime too. I get Prime messages all the time about APs changing channels, just because I want to be able to get all that information.
Yeah, you just have to be aware what happens when an AP changes channel, and how it can impact the user connectivity, the client connectivity. And then I guess you can I think it's a good idea to start with low, and then see if you can increase it to medium and see the impact it has in your environment.
High.
Yeah. And I think it would be a good thing to mention at this point that it will work better if you have a well-designed Wi-Fi network. It's not always the case, especially if you have a large environment, it's that you might have, inherited from someone else. It's not always easy to have a well-designed Wi-Fi network everywhere.
But CleanAir might not benefit you if you have a poorly designed network, especially if your APs are not mounted properly, right? So if you've got them, basically the bad Fi situations where you have them up high in the ceiling, hidden, and mounted in metal containers, it's not going to help in your situation, because you're not properly, the APs are not properly getting the information about the environment because of the interference it has itself trying to get that information.
Yeah. So
always have just enabling this feature is not always going to make your life better. You do want to have a proper design, which we've talked about in previous episodes, and maybe we'll list some of those episodes that you should listen to. And then also, it needs NDP as well. And we've done an episode on NDP. We'll link out to that episode so that you guys can also listen to that, because all of these components all work together. They all need to be mounted properly and be able to, all the APs need to hear each other, especially if you're going to try to triangulate where the location of this interference is. Because actually triangulating the interference is a good topic. because it doesn't. My guess is you need MSC to really triangulate this, because let's say you have APs on different controllers. How could they correlate that information when all the information from APs is collected and sent to the controller it's physically associated to, right?
Yeah, to me, the Cisco Prime localization is just an idea. It just gives you an idea. If I really want to localize the source of the interference, I would go on site and localize it from being on site. Do the typical investigation work that we do when we want to localize an interference. It gives you an idea, but it doesn't give you the exact same.
It's going to take some guesswork, but if you have MSE, it's going to help. I think that actually helps with locating where some of these interferers are, because the interference detection reports or device reports are actually sent from the controllers to MSC, and then MSC takes those reports and the neighbors of the APs physically, associated to each controller, and then helps locate some of that interference for you.
Yeah.
Better location for the interference, but that's a different topic.
Yeah.
But one of the cool things with CleanAir is I really like, what I like doing is turning on Spectrum Expert, the application, and you can get this on Cisco's website. So if you have a Cisco AP environment, you have CleanAir enabled, you can download Cisco Spectrum Expert. It only runs on Windows. But what you do in your environment, if you go to the wireless section and then to your AP, you can change the AP mode to SE Connect. Now keep in mind, though, this is not going to serve any clients once you convert this to SE Connect. But within Spectrum Expert, you will put the IP address of the AP, and then on the controller, that AP, when you enable the SE Connect, it's going to give you a network Spectrum interface key, and you plug that into Spectrum Expert, and then you'll be able to see the spectrum in real time. It'll give you a channel utilization graph. It'll tell you what's utilizing that channel, right? What kind of traffic is it? Non-Wi-Fi traffic? Is it Wi-Fi traffic or something else, right? Bluetooth, as an example. You can see channel utilization over time. So maybe you're trying to troubleshoot an issue. You just don't know what the issue is and when it occurs. Maybe it's a specific device. So you could look at that graph and then tell someone to turn on that device. And if you see the utilization pop up to, say, 100%, then you found your culprit right there.
And the beauty of this is that you don't need to be like right next to the AP. You could be doing that remotely. Mm-hmm. Since you just need the IP, the information can go across the network. So you could be, in one office and then doing spectrum analysis in another office.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, even though there's a cap tunnel between the AP and the controller, this connectivity is just directly from the application to the AP. And then you can even grab duty cycle from Spectrum Expert and see that for your band. And what we're going to do is include some photos of Spectrum Expert and also MetaGeek Channelizer to show you what exactly you can do with Cisco CleanAir and enable SE Connect, because I'm able to scan the spectrum. The resolution on this thing is awesome, right? Because there's a lot of spectrum analyzers out there. You can get some pretty inexpensively, but I think the key thing here with some of these spectrum analyzers is the resolution it'll give you when it comes to detecting interference. Because it's possible that you might not be able to catch, say, Bluetooth channel hopping, because maybe the spectrum analysis card that you have just can't pick it up with the resolution.
Yeah, the resolution is better than the resolution is exactly 78.125 kilohertz. So it's better than a MetaGeek, WiSpy DBX card. I think that's how they call it. So yeah, it gives you like a clear view of what the spectrum looks like.
Yeah, and then we'll include images with the channelizer. And what I think is really cool is I think it puts everything nicely in one single window. And then you could see the channel utilization, you can see the max channel utilization, the average, and then the interfering devices tab. You can see which one is actually the most, that has the highest severity. You enable that, you just put a checkbox on it, and then it'll show you exactly what channel it's on and what band. So I think that's going to be pretty neat. I guess now some of the things, what else can we talk about before kind of diving into the future of spectrum analysis and CleanAir?
We could talk about how we could use CleanAir in our day-to-day job operation.
Oh, okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, I think CleanAir can be nice if we're doing some troubleshoot, because it provides some useful information about how the spectrum activity, and we can tie that into channel utilization to try to figure out if our spectrum is busy because we have a lot of Wi-Fi traffic, or is it because we have non-Wi-Fi interference causing a lot of problem on our Wi-Fi? So we could use that to do some troubleshooting.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece, especially when you have an office that's thousands of miles away and you've exhausted all troubleshooting. Maybe it is the spectrum, but you might not have somebody on site that has the tools to do spectrum analysis. So you could convert one of your APs into, for one, it's already scanning on the channel it's serving, but maybe there's interference on different channels, so you can convert it to SC Connect or monitor mode and try to get more information that way. I think that's the best tool that you have, especially in remote offices. This episode is proudly sponsored by Channelizer with Cisco CleanAir from MetaGeek. Channelizer with Cisco CleanAir is software that provides remote access to the CleanAir radio on your Cisco access points, so you can troubleshoot spectrum issues from your desk, down the hall, or halfway around the world. Using Channelizer, you can find and classify interfering devices automatically and view the duty cycle of each unique transmitter from the perspective of your CleanAir AP. Channelizer provides a complete picture of your RF environment and easy-to-read visualizations, so you can identify and fix issues quickly. No longer will you need to go on-site or even get up from your desk to troubleshoot spectrum issues. To thank you for supporting our friends at Clear2Send, MetaGeek is offering a limited time 10% discount to all listeners. Visit metageek.com/CTS and use the code CTS10 at checkout for 10% off your purchase of Channelizer with Cisco CleanAir.
Yeah, and it's not going to replace like an engineer going on site with a dedicated spectrum analyzer and doing the job of doing a spectrum analysis, but it gives you some useful information for just to start up your troubleshoot or to go in the right direction when you troubleshoot.
Yeah, because you got to use the tools that you have already.
Yeah, exactly, and because it's like in the AP. That's perfect, right? It's right there in the AP. You can just get the information whenever you need it.
Yeah,
as long as you enable it.
Yeah, it's a powerful chip that's on the AP itself. Now, even though we've seen a lot of APs mounted incorrectly, the sensitivity of that chip is pretty good because it can grab. So the detection sensitivity is 10 dB SNR. So even if you've got your power tuned down pretty low on the card on the radio, it'll still detect some of those signals at a low RSSI, for example. So I think using your APs to your advantage is the first step in troubleshooting, or not the first step, but one of your steps before even trying to get somebody on site to physically see what's going on with a spectrum analyzer on their computer, like Channelizer, for example, with the DBX.
Yeah. And I believe, in the new version of AirOS code for the controller, in the new dashboard that you first get when you connect to the controller graphical interface, they give you some information about, channel utilization, or if you have any non-Wi-Fi traffic detected by the AP on the AP
that's
page.
A good point. Yeah, there's an interferers section, and you could see some interferers there. They're trying to put that all in there for you to make it more useful, right? So we want to see that visualization to be able to determine right away what kind of problem we're having. And so one of those is in the AP performance section is you've got your channel utilization, and that's CleanAir helps with determining that channel utilization as well.
Yeah.
Because you could have channel utilization from a non-Wi-Fi device, right? So we could,
exactly.
Even though it's possible to get channel utilization from an information element within the frame, what about those coming from non-Wi-Fi, non-802.11 devices? They don't tell us that, and your 802.11 cards can't process or demodulate those signals.
Yeah, exactly. So that's when CleanAir is useful. And I love the fact that, the Cisco controller will tell you, part of your channel utilization is caused by Wi-Fi traffic, and the other one is non-Wi-Fi, and it will tell you the percentage. So you can get an idea of, what's wrong in the environment. Am I having like too much CCI or too much Wi-Fi traffic, or is it just something else that's causing a lot of that's causing the channel to be utilized a lot?
Yeah, and I guess now is a good time to transition to, talking about the future of CleanAir, how it can be improved. Are we still going to use it? Because you talked about that graph when you or the visualization when you log in, right? If you're using the newer 8. When did they introduce this? It was in the 8.0 code, I believe.
Yeah,
where you get those graphs.
Sure. Yeah,
now, I think there could be much more that we can get from this. Don't you think so, Francois?
Yeah,
because I have plenty of ideas of how we could use CleanAir, and we're actually seeing some of the we see some of this from other vendors, but
yeah, maybe they could introduce a little bit more intelligence and come up with like a personalized assistant. I don't know how they call it, but they could correlate all of these data together and then provide us with like a nice dashboard telling us that, maybe layer 1 is the issue in this case. Maybe it's something else. Maybe you have, a lot of CCI.
Have CleanAir have a little bit more smarts, right? If it's tied into RRM, and you have NDP, all these APs can hear each other. They know what channel they're broadcasting on. CleanAir should be able to say, okay, we have channel utilization, we have interference on this channel. To me, what I want to see is it really affecting anybody, right? It's giving me data on the interferers tab, but does that what can I do with that information, right? What kind of action can I create when I see that information? Because right now it's a table in the controller, and then if you have the newer version, you see that graph, but I think it needs more meat to it. And
the AP knows about the retries, knows about the clients leaving the network. So you should be able to tell if it's really impacting the end user experience. Also, what I would like to see, because all of this data is kept by the controller, so you could go back in time and see what happened at a specific time. It would be nice to have like a timeline of the network, the Wi-Fi performance, and you could just navigate in this timeline and see, what if something impacted your Wi-Fi network at one given point. Sometimes you can have like an interference that's intermittent. that only happens at certain given times during the day. So it would be nice to have like a big timeline representing your AP activity, and then you could go back in time and see, how the Wi-Fi was performing. And you could probably see during the day that, okay, I'm having a lot more Wi-Fi traffic at one given time during the day, and this is why I'm having more channel utilization. One given time, I'm having an interference for half an hour at lunch, maybe because the microwaves are used. I'm giving a typical example, but you know what I mean. It would be nice to have something where you could just navigate, and all the information is there, right?
Yeah, it's there, but we need it to do because everyone's wanting engineers to do more with less, right? So when it comes to CleanAir and it's detecting interference, we want to know, okay, we have interference, but do we need to act on it? Do we need to act on that AP, on that channel? Maybe not, because maybe you only have one device that's on there and he's happy and he's not even seeing any issues because he's the only person there. But maybe we have an AP that's serving, dozens of clients and we have interference. I want to know, okay, here I have interference on this AP. This number of clients are actually having issues because now they're seeing a lot of retries. They're seeing, we're seeing a lot of disassociations because of this interference. More information that leads to that to drive more action or the right action to perform on your wireless network.
Yeah, and I think it would be a more reliable way to detect real problem on the Wi-Fi network, because sometimes how Wi-Fi is such a robust technology. Sometimes users don't even notice that we have a serious problem. But the controller should be able to tell us, just like you said, it should be able to tell us if we have a problem impacting the Wi-Fi performance.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's where I see CleanAir can be improved. I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think Cisco is going to say, CleanAir is not going to be supported anymore, because I think it is a core piece of the wireless controller. I think that is one of their best benefits of going with their controllers. And maybe they'll tie more of this into the Meraki solution, but I think that the APs themselves with CleanAir on it, that's one of the reasons why we buy into Cisco APs, is that piece of the technology. It's awesome to have. It helps with mitigating some issues on the Wi-Fi network, but I think it could be improved greatly and provide more benefit for network engineers and even those who are not wireless engineers. Maybe they know enough to be dangerous, but not quite know exactly what's going on. So a way to help those guys as well, because I know not everyone can get a dedicated Wi-Fi engineer on staff. It's just not going to happen.
Well, it could be used by the the support agents, like the level 1, level 2. When they receive a call, Wi-Fi sucks, they could go and get a sense, right? If the controller provides more smart information, they could get a sense of what's going on.
Yeah, so I'm sensing a lot of different UI changes, and not just have a UI built for an engineer that knows how to configure things, but also a UI for someone who's not an engineer, but it can use the information that the controller collects to present information that says, here's a problem, here's what you might want to do, and then go with that, right? Here's the change you need to make.
So basically, we already have the hardware. We just need to improve the software.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think, I think there's a lot of improvements that could be made on hardware too. But
yeah.
Because there's a lot of improvements everywhere that could be made. But that's a different story. And I think, you know what? We should probably link to, Jake Snyder created a new episode that had to do with the quality of the code nowadays with different vendors. But
yeah,
we should.
I started to listen to it today, actually.
Yeah, so a plug for Jake for creating his channel 2DS from DS, which is him in his car talking about Wi-Fi, and I think it's a great idea. So we'll link out to him in the show notes as well. So, I mean, that's our topic for today, talking about CleanAir. anything else you want to add before we get to two things that we want to tell everyone about?
I don't think so, Royal.
Yeah, we'll add a link.
I'm excited to hear about what you're going to say.
Yeah, we got two things. For one, if you want to get more information on CleanAir, we're going to provide a downloadable cheat sheet PDF of some CleanAir commands that you could run on your controller to get information on, whatever you can see in the GUI. You could also get on command line, and that could be useful if you're trying to like screen scrape, or just maybe you just have command line and you want to see some of this information. And we'll also include some images of, is this right, friends? So we're going to add some potential interferers or interfere signatures.
Yeah, we're going to try to add a lot of, not a lot, but a few pictures of typical interference you might found in your environment.
Awesome. So if you're looking at some interference, or maybe you see a spike or something that looks like interference, but you don't know what it is, we might have seen it, and we're going to include some of those images of what it looks like. So that's the downloadable cheat sheet, CleanAir cheat sheet, which you can find at cleartosend.net/107. It'll be a link at the bottom of the show notes. And then the second thing is we want to do a giveaway just for listening to this episode. We are going to give away a Clear to Send shirt or sweater of your choice. It's only going to be one winner. And all you got to do is go over to the show notes, cleartosend.net/107. There's a form. I just need your information to put you in a raffle. Fill out a comment below on the show notes talking about what kind of interference have you seen? How did you detect it? Did you use CleanAir? Anything that about your experience dealing with spectrum interference. Go ahead and share the episode on Twitter or any other social media network you're using under the hashtag CTS107. And be sure to follow us on Twitter as well, because we send out lots of information out on Twitter. And then if you can, leave a review for us on iTunes. Let us know how we're doing, because we want to know, are we providing relevant content to you guys? Is this what you guys want to hear? Is there anything else that we're missing? I don't know. Let us know. Leave a review. And then we will announce the winner on next week's episode, on episode number 108. What do you think about that, Francois? That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff, but that's good. I'm excited about the new, t-shirt campaign. I know my wife wants one, so I'm going to be buying one for her. So I already have one. It's great. So
yeah, I have a shirt. I actually ordered two more. I think I ordered a V-neck shirt, and I ordered a sweater because it's been cold out here, but then today felt like summer, so now I'm second guessing my sweater purchase.
Well, you can send it my way. We just got 10 centimeters of snow today, so
awesome. Well, we want to thank you guys for listening to this episode on Cisco CleanAir. If you guys have any questions, hit us up on Twitter. Let us know at ClearToSend. Francois, where can everyone find you?
On Twitter at Burgess Francois, and then I guess we'll be on the blog as well, cleartosend.net. And then please feel free to share the episode with your colleague or your friends.
Cool. And you can find me on Twitter at Roel Dionisio. So thanks again. Thank you for listening. Be sure to hit up the show notes for the CleanAir cheat sheet, and also to be in the giveaway. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye, guys.
See you guys. Bye-bye.